Right, here we have a triangle question where we've got a couple of sides given to us, we've got an angle, and the question actually asks us to work out the length of ln, so this third side that we need to work out. Now this is most definitely going to be a trig question, trigonometry. There's no 90 degrees, so we're going to be using the sine or the cosine rule. Because I've got a couple of sides and I wish to know the third side, if the question involves three sides, we're going to be using the cosine rule, which is given to you on your formula sheet. Here, a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. And they've got a triangle above to show you how it's laid up with the letters opposite each other. Now this isn't too kind as we label this up because it's going to be giving us different values, so we're going to have to do a bit of work on this question, unfortunately. But in the cosine rule, there's only one capital letter, which is an A, and if we look at the capital letter of an A, it's an angle. So I'm going to relabel this diagram here. The angle I know is this side, so that's capital A. Opposite it is small a. Now I can label up B and C now. They don't matter which sides, but big B is this corner, little b will be the opposite side. Big C is going to be this corner, and so little c would be coming over to this side. And that's the value that I need to find out. I need to work out C. So some people might even like to write down those values if they're not clear on the diagram. So A is 15.7, B is 12.8, capital A is 136 degrees. Right then, so the cosine rule says a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. Right, and c is the value we don't know. Many of you might find it easiest to put the values in and just deal with the numbers. Alternatively, you could rearrange the algebra at the start to try and isolate this c value. But I think to demonstrate here, for the majority of people, I'm going to put the numbers in as we know them. So a is 15.7 squared. B squared becomes 12.a squared. I don't know what c is, so it stays as c. Minus 2 times my b, which is 12.8, times my c value, times cos capital A, which is 136. So I can use my calculator to start giving me some numerical values for this to try and just simplify it up a bit easier. So the left hand side is 15.7 squared, which gives me 246.49. It equals 12.8 squared, which is 163.84, plus my c squared, minus a large number now, where I can do 2 times 12.8 times my cos 136 to work out the values around the c's, to work out how many c's I've got. So 2 times 12.8 times cos 136 gives me minus 18.41, and that was a negative, and I didn't put a negative in mine, so that's actually going to make it a positive with those values. Okay, maybe I should have put in minus 2 and that would have made it positive, but I didn't. It came out as minus 18. So to make this question even harder, there's a potential there for a sign error. Okay, and that was how many c's we've got there, 18.415 c's. So not the easiest now. This value on the left hand side I'm going to bring across to the right hand side so that my equation equals 0 to try and solve it and try and help me out here. So if I do that, I'm going to take 246.49 minus 246.49. That gives me 0 equals, now it's 163.84, and I'm going to take away my 246.49 because they're my two number terms. This is how many c's I've got. And I'm going to have minus 82.65 to work out. So minus 82.65 plus my c squared plus my 18.415c. Right, let's just rearrange that first of all to try and make it a bit neater than it is currently. 82.65. You've got that value there, and we've got to work out the dimensions of c. Now again, this is a quadratic equation, and I'm not able to factorise two values that multiply to make 82.65 and add to make 18.415, so I'm going to have to use my quadratic equation to work it out. So quadratic equation is in your book, or formula sheet, minus b plus or minus the square root, etc, etc. Alright, let's write down my a, b and c values. A is 1 because I've got 1c squared, B is 18.415, C is minus 82.65. Quadratic equation, minus B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. Substitute my values in. So minus B becomes minus 18.415. Add on minus the square root of 18.415 squared minus 4 times 1, because that's A, and C is minus 82.65. So I've got a couple of negatives that are going to multiply there, and that's all divided by 2 times A, which is 2 times 1. So I'm going to use my calculator to put all this in. I'm going to use my fraction button. So minus 18.415. Now you might have seen earlier or not, but there is no plus or minus button on your calculator. That's 2 individual steps where we need to do an addition first of all, and then maybe a subtraction afterwards. So I'm going to do a plus and do the square root of 18.415 squared minus 4 times 1 times minus 82.65. And move down to my denominator. 2 times 1, I could type it in, but I know that's 2, so I'm going to just cheat on that and just put times 2 in. That gives me an answer of 3.731899377, or the one with its negative. And you can see I'm running out of space here with the work we've done. So I'm going to move back into my equation, not delete it, because I don't want to really type all that in if I can help it. And where I had the addition before in my calculator, I'm going to delete it and do a subtraction. That gives me a negative answer. Now this is a length of a side. It's not going to be a negative answer. So although that is a solution to this equation, it's not applicable for my answer because it is a length. So it's the 3.73 figure I want. I'm being asked to give my answer correct to 3 significant figures. The 3 is the first, 7 is the next, then it's the next 3 is the third. Draw a line where I'm going to cut it off. The digit after that is a 1. That means I'm not going to round, so I'm going to get an answer of 3.73 centimetres for the length of that side.